All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a pretty profound reality check, one that's going to force us to look in the mirror and completely reevaluate how we think about the trajectory of our lives, our health, and our careers. See, we're totally conditioned to believe that failure is this dramatic event, right? A sudden crash, a loud explosion, a definitive moment where everything just falls apart. But the source material we're exploring today, it completely shatters that idea. It reveals a much quieter and, frankly, much more dangerous truth about human decline, both physically and psychologically. We're going to map out exactly how failure actually happens, and more importantly, how you can use this exact same process to build unstoppable success. So let's get right into it.
No one fails suddenly. Seriously, just let that sink in for a second. Failure is not a sudden fall. It's a slow, methodical erosion. It's not the result of one massive misstep that ruins everything overnight. Instead, it's the invisible, compounding result of tiny, wrong decisions that just pile up over a long period of time. It's like the quiet rust on a bridge, not the dynamite that blows it up.
Section 1. The illusion of sudden failure. The myth of the big mistake.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've kind of got to dismantle this whole misconception that people just wake up one day and boom, they've suddenly lost their health, their relationships, or their career. It simply doesn't happen that way. But we live in constant fear of the big mistake, right? That one catastrophic error, the massive financial blunder, the terrible career move, the sudden injury. We spend so much energy trying to guard against these giant threats. But actually, scratch that. The real danger lies in small concessions. We shouldn't be terrified of the big mistake. We should be absolutely terrified of the small, daily choices where we prioritize immediate comfort over necessary effort. The days you decide to hit snooze for just 10 more minutes. The moments you tell yourself, hey, today I deserve to cheat on my diet. It's these seemingly harmless, tiny compromises that actually pave the road to ruin.
Section 2. The slow and silent erosion. Normalizing decline.
And this brilliantly illustrates how this psychological mindset of making small concessions doesn't just stay in our heads. It literally manifests in our physical bodies through a process called silent erosion. This is a biological and psychological phenomenon where your body essentially adapts to the weakness you subject it to. Because the physical decline is so incredibly gradual, you don't even notice it happening. You just begin to normalize it. You start accepting chronic fatigue, stiffness, and a lack of energy as, a normal part of life, or just getting older. You fail to recognize that these aren't natural inevitabilities. They are glaring signs of imbalance. Your body is highly adaptable, and if you consistently ask nothing of it, it will perfectly adapt to doing absolutely nothing, cementing that low-energy state as your new normal.
Section 3. The weight of small concessions. The cascade of compromise.
So, how exactly does this physical adaptation tie into our specific day-to-day choices? Well, let's walk through what this looks like on a totally average Tuesday. Think of it as a cascade of compromise. It starts in the morning. The alarm goes off and you think, just 10 more minutes of sleep. It feels like self-care in the moment, but really it's the first concession. Then it's the afternoon. You're a bit tired, and you decide to cheat the diet. I've had a hard day. I deserve this. Another concession. Evening arrives. You plan to exercise, but man, the couch is right there. You choose comfort over effort. By the time we reach the end of the day, you haven't committed a major crime, but you've entered a normalized state of failure. These seemingly harmless choices compound. Why? Because while movement and discipline build capacity, neglect builds limitation. Every choice is literally a vote for the type of physiological and psychological machine you're building.
Which brings us to a devastating psychological truth. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you kill a piece of your self-confidence. When you skip that workout you promised you'd do, or eat the junk food you swore you wouldn't, the physical impact isn't even the worst part. The psychological toll is. You're subconsciously teaching your own brain that your word means absolutely nothing. Slowly, day by day, you become someone you simply cannot trust. And according to the source material we're looking at, that loss of self-trust is the ultimate, most profound failure of all.
Section 4. The body takes its toll. The final warning.
Let's move on and see how this all builds up. Because eventually, the bill comes due for all those silenced promises and ignored signals. The sequential progression of decay begins by silencing your body's early whispers. You feel lethargic. You feel a slight ache, but you ignore it. You push it down with caffeine or endless scrolling. That leads to experiencing pain as the final warning. Pain isn't the first sign of a problem, guys. It's the last alarm bell. It's your biology literally screaming at you because you ignored all the whispers. And finally, the body takes its toll. It severely limits your life. Just as failure becomes a habit in your mind, your physical body forces you to pay the price for your neglect. The physical pain maps perfectly to the existential toll of a life lived through small, constant compromises.
Section 5. Building Daily Success, the Invisible Victories.
Now, if everything we've talked about so far feels super heavy, here's the incredibly empowering wake-up call. We can completely flip this script. Success functions exactly the same way as failure. It's the exact same slow process. You don't become instantly successful overnight, just like you don't fail overnight. Instead, success is built entirely on small, invisible victories. Waking up on the first alarm, choosing the healthy meal, doing the workout when nobody is watching and you really don't feel like it. Those are the microscopic building blocks of greatness. And fundamentally, the human body and your mind are beautifully designed for effort and adaptation. If you demand greatness from them through consistent, small efforts, they will adapt to give you greatness. They will build capacity instead of limitation.
The question isn't if you'll win today. This is absolutely vital to understand. Just as you shouldn't fear the massive, sudden failure, you also shouldn't obsess over achieving a massive, sudden victory today. You aren't going to fix your entire life, your whole career, or your complete physical health before the sun goes down. And honestly, you don't need to. Letting go of the need for an immediate sweeping victory frees you to focus on what actually matters, the present moment and the present choice.
So the crucial point comes down to this stark question. Which habit are you feeding right now? In this exact moment, are you leaning into a small concession that builds limitation, or are you executing a tiny, invisible victory that builds capacity? The direction of your entire life is being decided right now, in the mundane, quiet choices of today. Choose with wisdom.